One, faster than the fall of the Maryland man. The double tap on narco-terrorism boats. Story has fallen apart in days. Today, in propaganda. Two, everyone has a disability. Inflation, grade inflation, healthcare inflation. Have you heard about disability inflation? No, I'm not talking about the boarding line at Southwest. I'm talking about all the kids with ADHD and extra time in college with Jeffery Mead. Three, who can actually win the national championship? It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel. We welcome you in to this Thursday. Make sure you follow us on Apple or on Spotify, because that's where you'll get the Friday edition of Cain on Sports. You want to make sure you don't miss me, Tinfoil Pat, Two-A-Days Dan, hanging out on Fridays, arguing about the most important things in society, like who is the real America's team. And where we have conversations like the one I will have this week on the Fox News channel on The Will Cain Show, where we will have exclusive breaking news about the case for the Hall of Fame by one Roger Clemens. Make sure you tune in this week to the Fox News channel and The Will Cain Show. That's where you get the truth. Everywhere else, you get the propaganda. And let's start there today. Today in propaganda. Story number one. Inspector General report, Pentagon, Washington, D.C., SignalGate. Headline from NBC News. Breaking. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared classified information in a leaked Signal chat that could have imperiled troops, a watchdog report finds. The headline screaming across the mainstream media today, competing with whether or not narco boats have been double-tapped, amounting to a war crime, is a revisit on the initial attack on Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and the Inspector General's report suggesting he imperiled American troops by posting classified information on Signal. Well, Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell says that's an exact opposite and wrong reading of the Inspector General's report. Parnell has posted on X the following. This is a lie. The report specifically says no classified information was shared. Good Lord. Fake news in overtime. What is true? An initial glance, an initial reading of the Inspector General's report shows that the Secretary of War has the power to determine what is classified. The Inspector General's report seems to suggest he should not have used his personal phone to communicate that information, but he does have the power to do so, not violating any particular law. The SignalGate story is the perfect example of the way and the motivation behind stories that not just bleed their way into the public's consciousness, but dominate the public's consciousness. If I went right now down to a diner in Dallas and had breakfast, it's very likely that conservative friends, knowing that I am friends with Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, would make a joke about whether or not, anything classified is being texted out on an unsecured line. Why? Because that's what bleeds into the public consciousness, not a detailed dive into what is exactly the truth. It just underlines the power of initial narrative. An initial narrative is really created in the first 24 to 36 hours of a story hitting someone's consciousness. The old saying is a lie makes its way around the world 3 times before truth has the chance to get its pants on. That's certainly the case when you look at the double-tap strike story of narco-terrorism boats in the Caribbean. The initial story from the Washington Post painted a picture of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth running around the Pentagon, hair on fire, yelling, "Kill them all." And that image created a narrative where sitting politicians, Democrat politicians in the Senate and Congress, are now calling it a war crime, what's happened in the Caribbean. Let's see if we can put our pants on and get to the truth. Here is how the Washington Post created that initial narrative, how it solidified the story in the public's mind. Headline, Hegseth order on first Caribbean boat strike, officials say, kill them all. You can just imagine it. Former Fox and Friends weekend host running around, inappropriately yelling, kill them all. And if that's what you want to believe, if that's the image you already had in your mind, if that's the image that Minority Chuck Schumer managed to lodge between your ears, then that's going to be somehow believable. But it is a story that literally fell apart in a matter of days. In a matter of days. ABC News' Martha Raddatz had to admit as much in the last 24 hours.
New information. According to a source familiar with the incident, the two survivors climbed back onto the boat after the initial strike. They were believed to be potentially in communication with others and salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was determined they were still in the fight and valid targets. A JAG officer was also giving legal advice. So again, David, that video will be key, and Admiral Bradley will be on the Hill tomorrow behind closed doors.
A lot of details, really, in that one little clip from ABC. Reports out of the New York Times following up on the Washington Post suggested that Hegseth, in fact, wasn't even in the room during the second strike, that he had established the rules of engagement prior to Admiral Bradley calling the game time decisions on when and when not to strike the narco-terrorists in the Caribbean. Then we have the report that the video actually reveals these individuals, as reported there by Raddatz, and now in a secondary report from the New York Times, that they climbed back into the boat. Not only did they climb back into the boat, but they reached for a radio and called for help. All of which, by the way, was part of a preset list of requirements that established the rules of engagement in these strikes on narco-terrorists. If, according to reports, the guidelines read, they are helpless in the water, then they will be rescued, arrested, as has been done, by the way, on several occasions now in other narco-terrorist strikes. But if they rejoin the fight, if they remain hostile, actions which could include radio for help to other narco-terrorists, then they are deemed hostile, and they will be subject to other strikes. This is not inconsistent with what we've seen from the rules of engagement and war in every theater. In the days since the initial story popped up in the Washington Post, you've heard from military leaders, but also special forces operatives who said, what are you talking about? This is exactly what we did every time in Afghanistan. If we dropped a drone bomb, if we attacked in any way and dudes took off running and weren't killed in the initial strike, what did we do? We hunt them down and we killed them. And now we learn that even more protections were put into place when it comes to these narco strikes than what we heard from other theaters of war, including, don't let it slip your mind or slip the attention, Raddatz saying a JAG lawyer was present during the decision-making process, presumably in a skiff or in a situation room. This story has fallen apart faster than the Maryland man. The story, as they want you to believe it, is that the Fox and Friends weekend co-host, was running around the Pentagon with his hair on fire, yelling about kill them all. When in fact, we had a preset list for the rules of engagement. Charitable, one might add. If they're helpless in the water, then we'll continue to go ahead and rescue them. Different than what we've done in other theaters of war. And we kept a JAG lawyer present during the decision-making process where the game time decision was not made by the Secretary of War, but rather Admiral Bradley. But that doesn't fit. You see, that doesn't fit the war crimes narrative. And the war crimes narrative only fits if you're operating from the conclusion that Hegseth is unqualified, that he is cartoonish, that he is juvenile. I'm trying to remember all the words that have been uttered by, for example, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in just the last 24 hours. And that more importantly, he works for President Donald Trump. And that your ultimate motivation isn't the Geneva Convention, but that your ultimate motivation is Trump derangement syndrome. However, motivation, and by the way, hypocrisy, inconsistent application. We need some evidence of that really quickly. How about this? This is former President Joe Biden in 1989 talking about going after narco-terrorists.
We think we should do more to stem the flow of drugs across our borders, and we think we should go one step further. Let's go after the drug lords where they live, with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it. We have to lock up the dealers for a long, long time, and we have to attack the source from which the drugs come. And we have to do that not a piece at a time, but all at once. And we have to do it now.
1989. Joe Biden. We have to go after the narco-terrorists. His word, not an invented term in 2025, to apply the authorization of military force beyond Al-Qaeda and ISIS into drug cartels, but a term that has been around for 30 plus years, and asking Americans to get on board with going after them where they are, not piece by piece, but all at once. A position more aggressive than the one taken today by the Trump administration. There are people, by the way, I think Senator Rand Paul is a consistent critic of executive power when it comes to war, and that Congress still retains the power to conduct war. But that consistent motivation does not apply to Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, to Senator Mark Kelly, to Senator Chris Murphy, to former President Joe Biden. Because hypocrisy and TDS explain the propaganda, but they don't absolve the power of the propaganda. That initial 36 hours, even if it comes undone as quickly as the Maryland man, is so powerful. It's already done a lap around the world, maybe two, and the truth is still getting its pants on. You want a great example? Maybe the perfect example? Who killed Charlie Kirk? Tyler Robinson, right? What was Tyler Robinson's ideology? Did he come from the right or did he come from the left? Was Charlie Kirk killed by the right? Or was Charlie Kirk killed by an ideologue, anti-fascist from the left? What's the truth? Who's responsible for the assassination? 25% of Americans, less than, believe the answer correctly is identified as Charlie Kirk's killer as left-wing. Only 24% of likely voters know Charlie Kirk's killer was left-wing. That is some successful laps around the world in the world of propaganda today. Let's talk about this. Plus, this amazing, something I've run into personally, and now there's been a report written on this, the massive inflation in disability. What do I mean by that? Not the wheelchairs lined up to board on a Southwest Airlines flight, but rather how many kids are getting extra time because everybody on tests, because everybody, I mean everybody, is ADHD. That's coming up with Jeffery Mead on Will Cain Country. You've heard me talk a lot, and it's well-deserved, about Buffalo Jackson. They make vintage outdoor leather jackets, flannels, wallets. It's a Western, rugged brand that actually feels like the real thing. And look, it's cold this week. It's really cold. And most of the country is freezing. So what if you gave yourself an upgrade this year? How about a new outdoor leather jacket? Or maybe it's a shearling bomber, which you saw me wearing one of those other days. Or maybe it was just yesterday. Or the puffy leather jacket, which I have that one as well and wore to the Army-Navy game. I'm telling you, this stuff is awesome. It's the real deal. And think of it as an investment for your closet, something you'll be wearing for years because it's timeless style, classic style. You might even wear this for a decade. Their gear's been featured on Yellowstone. Country artists wear it. Even folks around our network have it on at Fox. And here's what I know. When you wear a good jacket, a really good jacket, you get compliments. People notice. They say, hey, nice jacket. More so than a shirt, even more so than pants. Maybe shoes. Nothing like a jacket. So when's the last time you heard that? Really nice jacket. Why not get yourself a gift this Christmas from Buffalo Jackson? Buffalo Jackson makes leather bags, wallets, and jackets built to roam. You can check them out at buffalojackson.com. And here's the big moment. This is the discount. You ready? Code WILL10, and it'll be 10% off. Get 10% off any of this stuff with WILL10. Jeffery Mead, next on Will Cain Country. 1989, Joe Biden. Enjoy the flashback? I got another one. Let's hear again from Joe Biden. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Will Cain Facebook page, but always here for you by following us at Spotify or on Apple. Stunning news story, by the way. Really stunning. So everybody's pushing back on ICE amidst record, incredible, scandalous fraud in Minnesota. The Minnesota chief of police, the Minneapolis mayor, all talking not about Keith Ellison or Somali fraud rings when it comes to fake autism claims, but talking about ICE coming in to Minneapolis and going after illegal immigrants. So the city of New York apparently has arrested something like 7,000 illegal immigrants, but they haven't turned them over to ICE. They haven't participated in the deportation detainer process. You know what they've done instead? Released them back onto the streets. Take a look at this headline from the New York Post. Chilling new details emerge about killer migrants responsible for 29 homicides sprung from New York jails instead of being handed off to ICE. Instead of turning over these illegal immigrants to ICE to be deported, New York so opposed to participating in any way, along with the federal government, with DHS, with ICE, that they're putting murderers back onto the streets. What an insane place today that we live in for the Democrat Party. A lot's changed. I'm willing to admit the Republican Party has changed, and I think for most part for the good. But along with that, because for every yin, there's a yang, there has been a change in the Democrat Party. And Democrat Party now, only North Star being opposite Donald Trump, anti-Trump, has put them in a position where they sound nothing like their former self. It was bipartisan in the past, putting bad guys into jail, deporting illegal immigrants, going after drug cartels. This was bipartisan because it was common sense, because it was an obvious value of the American people. But the Democrat Party today is release illegal immigrants, even if they're murderers, protect narco terrorists. Why? Because Donald Trump wants to do the opposite. And they find themselves in a position today where they sound very different from, for example, 30 plus years ago and Joe Biden.
It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask, what made them do this?
That is so different than what we hear from today from Democrats. Joining us now is social and political commentator Jeffery Mead. What's up, Jeffrey? Man, that is different, right? That is a wild... Man, the story today is, yeah, but what did society do to make this person do what they did to society?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Again, you see a theme with Democrats, not wanting to talk about personal accountability, decision-making, not wanting to hold people accountable for their actions, and trying to give people an out for terrible actions. And eventually that leads to more terrible actions. So, yeah.
to some extent, it can become understandable in that it's curious from a macro perspective. How do you solve it? Like, you solve it, we know in part, with accountability, by putting people in jail, by administering punishment. But you would also like to go, well, are there social ills that we can address that make them less likely, these incidences less likely to happen? But we've gone beyond that curiosity, that understanding, into that being, if not forgiveness, then a mitigating factor. Oh, wow, you had a rough upbringing. Maybe we're going to take that into account here when it comes to whether or not you should be punished or held accountable for selling these drugs, selling this fentanyl that killed these kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me because they never talk about, they talk about the system, but they don't talk about the inputs that possibly led up to this person doing those things. So for example, they don't talk about, single mothers raising children. They don't talk about fathers not being in the home. They don't talk about the differences in how children turn out on average, typically when they're raised with a father in the home, when they're not. So it's interesting to me that they don't ever talk about those things. They say they want to solve the problem, but they don't actually seem to want to talk about the root of those problems and actually work to solve the roots of those problems, probably because it requires accountability and telling people, hey, you actually have to do better. You might need to do this. You might need to do that. And it makes them uncomfortable actually having to tell people things that maybe aren't so nice.
You know, a perfect example of this, Jeffrey, and this actually shows the need for accountability, but also what you're talking about, the factors that do lead someone to potential criminality. Two-a-days. I took your advice. I took your recommendation. So when you say I always ignore you, I want you to hear this. I started last night the Sean Combs Reckoning documentary on Netflix. Two-a-days. It's phenomenal. It's really good.
Told you.
I didn't know that this was the documentary done by 50 Cent.
Yeah.
And that I had forgotten he bought this footage from a videographer that followed Combs around in modern day. But he goes deep into the history of Combs. I believe it's 4 episodes. I'm only about 1.5 in. And Jeffrey, this is why I'm bringing it up. Like, Combs should 100% be responsible and accountable for the things that he's done. But one of the things you learn in this documentary is he grew up without his father, and he mythologized his father. At least this is the telling, according to this documentary and 50 Cent. He mythologized his father, who was supposedly this drug dealer. However successful or big time his father would have been, but he was murdered in New York City when Combs was just a little boy. And so this street life gangster image he had of his dad was almost something he was always trying to live up to, because he didn't have a dad to give him a model, to teach him how to act. And I think it's a pretty good example of maybe some of the contributing factors that led Combs down this path. Still, ultimately, he has to be accountable for the honestly, like, wake of victims on various levels and different types of victims throughout his life.
Yeah, I definitely do think, obviously, he still should be held accountable. And, that very well could play a part in it. He could have saw something or not, lack of, use his imagination, kind of imagine this is what it is and made that his version of whatever he wanted it to be, and then built that into his reality and acted on it. I mean, that could very well be true.
Two-a-days, jumping into the conversation here with me and Jeffery for just one moment. I didn't realize this was also going to be a deep dive into whether or not Puff Daddy played a role in killing Biggie Smalls, or not Biggie Smalls, but killing Tupac, which resulted in ultimately the murder of B.I.G. as well. But I will say, Jeffrey, I don't know if you've watched this on Netflix, but it's really good.
I have not.
My antennas are up a little bit too. The guys that they have in this documentary, like, you have to afford them some credibility, because these guys were around Combs
one of the founders of Bad Boy
life.
Okay.
Yes, but they are willing to say at this point that he's basically responsible for everything. Like, they are willing to say he put a hit out on Tupac. They're willing to say he did all of this stuff. And there's a little bit of me that's going, man, is he really everything that everyone always said bad about? Are all the conspiracies true? Because these guys, I don't know. There's just my antennas are up a little bit 2-a-days.
Well, he got away with a lot of it because he had a lot of loyalty back in the day, because he had that kind of image. But then his megalomania got a little too big, and then he started losing that loyalty and trust around people, and that's when people started turning on him and weren't afraid to talk. So that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, that's clearly he burned some relationships along the way of people who would have protected him or remained silent or even been loyal to him, and he continued to sort of, lean into this egomania, megalomania that left a lot of people behind. Jeffrey, you're young. First of all, are you a rap guy? You into rap?
Yes.
Okay,
but
you're young.
Not like old rap.
What?
No,
okay.
I don't like old rap.
I knew that's what's going to happen here. I knew it. I did. I could feel it coming, Dan. I could feel it coming.
Yeah.
That, I mean,
too young.
Here's Jeffrey, right? Jeffrey's black. Okay, does he like rap? I don't want to make the assumption, so I need to ask the question. But the overriding factor and characteristic of Jeffrey that we need to remember here is, dude is young. And talking about Tupac and Biggie and Sean Combs is like before he's born, man. It's like us reading about a rivalry between the Beatles and the Stones.
Yeah, Elvis.
Like this is old stuff for him. I mean, I don't know which of these conspiracies he's in on, but I would have thought you would have got in on the West Coast East Coast drama, Jeffrey.
No, had no interest. Never really cared about it.
It was fascinating.
Some of the music's okay, but I didn't like a lot of stuff that they were coming out with then, or I don't like a lot of it. So.
Really? Dre, Snoop, you didn't like, Ice Cube, you didn't like that genre of rap from the 90s?
I like 90s country better than modern country, but I like modern rap better than 90s rap.
Mumble rap, whatever we're doing today. Mumble,
yeah, like
fast
Travis
talk
Scott,
rap.
Young Thug, Drake,
More Ja
Future,
Rule days. Nelly.
Lil Yachty. Yeah.
See, those words mean nothing to me. All those words that were just said by Jeffrey mean nothing to me. But I can tell you about all the founding members of NWA. All right, let's move to this, Jeffrey. Speaking of pop culture, and by the way, the 90s. Let's start with something that feels obligatory at this point. Jeffrey, have you ever heard of Halle Berry?
I have.
Okay, that wasn't said with a great amount of confidence. That wasn't said like once again, you go a little older than you, and the answer sounds like this.
Well, I thought it was pronounced Halle.
I have.
So
What I
I was
say,
like,
Halle?
am I gonna?
It is
You said
Halle.
what? It is Halle.
It is. You're right. I don't know what I said. Yeah, it's Halle
Okay.
Berry. Yeah. I don't know what I said. Maybe I said Holly. I don't know. Halle Berry. Okay. At one time, maybe every Gen Xer and maybe even older millennials dream girl. Like, she was on every top 5 list, probably every top 3 list. She was it. Okay. Well, Halle Berry was at the New York Times Dealbook Forum, and seemingly apropos of nothing, before Governor Gavin Newsom took the stage, she had this to say about the potential candidate for president.
Back in my great state of California, my very own governor, Gavin Newsom, has vetoed our menopause bill, not 1 but 2 years in a row. But that's okay, because he's not going to be governor forever. And with the way he's overlooked women, half the population, by devaluing us in midlife, he probably should not be our next president either. Just saying.
Ooh, says the crowd, because it does come from a surprising source. First of all, I don't know what she's talking about. Well, I'm going to be honest. With this menopause bill, I don't know what she's talking about, Jeffrey. But, I mean, Gavin Newsom, this is sort of his base. Like, well, honestly, it's the base of any Democrat. You better get the celebrities.
Yeah, I mean, I think, from my understanding of why he vetoed it, it came down to economics. They weren't going to be able to afford it. I'm not saying that's 100%, but I think that's what it was. And if that's the case, I mean, that's not something I would expect to come from him. I would expect just sign it and we'll figure it out later. But, you know, it seems like he might be doing something reasonable. But yeah, I mean, that is his base. But I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, at the end of the day, that'll affect the primary. She's still, or his base still isn't going to vote for JD Vance. So it really just affects the primary, in my opinion.
No, but will they vote for AOC? You're exactly right. It's the primary. Will it be AOC? Will it be Josh Shapiro? Will it be Gavin Newsom? She's right, or you're right, about the affordability problem in California. They can't afford anything. They're broke. Gavin Newsom today is traveling to Washington, D.C. to ask for more money in fire relief. And there's a legitimate question being asked about whether or not California taxpayers or federal taxpayers can trust Gavin Newsom with money. Forget fire prevention. They've already given a lot of money to California for fire prevention and recovery. And where did that money go? So it's like loaning money to your brother-in-law, you know, who hasn't really been good with money in the past, and he's back for a second loan. It's like, And by the way, now he wants to take charge of the bank account. Not so sure, Gavin, that A, I'm going to give you another loan, or I'm going to make you president.
Yeah, no, I mean, aren't they operating at a deficit right now? Anyway, I think the state of California is operating at a deficit. And what's crazy is they tax you into oblivion already. So you're taxing people into oblivion, and then you're mismanaging that money and you're running deficits because you don't know how to manage money. I mean, like you said, it's like, you know, that family member coming back, hey, man, I need another $20. You know, like, give me another 20 and I think I'll be good after that. No, you won't. Like, we got to fix your problem. You have a problem. Right? So fix your financial literacy, how you do it. Like, they need to focus more on practicality and being realistic and getting things done rather than making people feel good.
This is actually the perfect transition. You're the perfect guest for this. This story is incredible. Guy who played your position, older than you, very successfully in the NFL, Odell Beckham Jr. Made a lot of money in the NFL. And, you know, I've gotten to know Jeffery a little bit. By the way, thanks for the text during the Texas A&M game, Jeffrey. And it turned out all right for me. I texted, Jeffrey said, how you feeling on Friday night? I said, not good during the first half. And the second half was incredible as Texas beat Texas A&M. But that's not the point. The point is this. I've gotten to know Jeffrey a little bit, and I've heard other people talk about how serious you were, like from the get-go. Like, you're a wide receiver at Oklahoma. You were interested in finance. You were interested in money management. Not the case for most guys in football, and clearly not the case for OBJ, who had this to say about really how far you can stretch $100 million.
If I didn't have a dollar in my account right here today as we speak, I'm going to be straight for the rest of my life. No question, right? I don't think everybody is in that. And when you've sacrificed your whole life to get here, and you're like, yeah, I played 10 years in the league. And I always explain this to people, I'm like, bro, you give somebody a 5-year, $100 million contract, right? What is it really? It's 5 years for 60. You're getting taxed. Do the math. That's 12 a year, you know, that you have to spend, use, save, invest.
Okay, that's the first part, Jeffrey. Let's just talk about that for just a moment. Yeah, he's right, by the way. I'm glad he did the math. Yeah, $100 million isn't $100 million. He said 60, which, by the way, I would have guessed 50 between agent fees, manager fees, taxes. Just when you're in that bracket, just budget for half. You know, You're going to get half of whatever you're reportedly getting. And then, you know, it doesn't come all at once, so portion it out over the years. Now you've got a budget. But he's making the argument ultimately, Jeffrey, $100 million doesn't go that far, actually, when you start stretching it out and how it actually comes into the bank account.
Yeah, I mean, I think it absolutely does. Here's the problem many athletes have, in my opinion. This is people in general. They want to make money and then go spend that money, right? When you're getting that type of money, what you should be doing is getting that money, investing it in assets that can then return cash flow and pay your bills, and then you're set up for life, right? But what they want to do is, let me go buy this $2 million car. Let me go get a $4 million house, even though I don't need it. Let me buy my mama this, even though she doesn't need it. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me go burn a bunch of money on liabilities rather than setting myself up for life and investing that in the cash flowing assets or just even appreciating assets. But I would say like real estate, you know, stocks that pay dividends, things like that. I think that is how you set yourself up, or buying cash flowing businesses is another good thing, right? That's how you actually set yourself up, and that's how you make that work long term. Because yeah, if you go blow it and you go live like you're making 50 million a year, you're going to run through it quick.
Well, okay. So first of all, what you just said is incredibly wise, distinguishing the difference between cash flowing assets and liabilities, or asset appreciation and liabilities, and everything in pop culture, and also the human condition. So it's no coincidence that pop culture reflects the human condition is to set up to burn money on liabilities. Short-term cars depreciate, jewelry's worth nothing, very little after you buy it. Everything that you want goes down in value. The things that you have to delay gratification on are the things that go up in value. But still, to be honest, still, Jeffrey, if you're just a spender, I actually think, what are you talking about? It's hard to burn $12 million a year. It's hard. What I mean by hard is you have to make a lot of bad decisions, not one or two. A lot of people make one or two. You have to make a lot and consistent bad decisions to burn $12 million. Let's do this. Let's listen one more time to some more OBJ.
So if you spending $4 million a year, that's really $40 million over 5 years, 8 a year, And now you start breaking down the numbers, it's like, that's a 5-year span of where you're getting $8 million. Can you make that last forever? And you always hear the people who ain't us and ain't been in the position to be like, oh, well, that would last a lifetime.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, another great point he's kind of alluding to there. This is a finite window for you. After this, you're not making anything close to this. Even the best examples, like let's just take Tony Romo, okay? There are gigantic outliers. Those outliers are Roger Staubach. For those that don't know, the 1970s Dallas Cowboys quarterback created a real estate firm in Dallas, and he became more wealthy than football ever could have afforded him. I would imagine John Elway's done really well because I think he has a bunch of car dealerships up in Denver. But Romo's a better, because it's still flashy example. Romo makes $18, $19, $20 million a year as a broadcaster for CBS. I don't remember what his last contract was with the Cowboys, but I'll bet it was more. I bet it was more than $20 million a year to be quarterback. So my point is, it doesn't last forever. It comes down. And for most everybody, it comes way, way, way down. So you get this for a finite period. So it's not only living within your $12 million budget, you got to make that last for the years after. And this kind of ties into what we were talking about. I would imagine, there's a lot of brother-in-laws and cousins and friends that you grew up with, that are also dipping into the pocket.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that, in my opinion, family members should be. I actually had a cousin who played in the NFL, and I don't ever remember asking him for money. I saw him helping out family, but I was like, I don't want to be asking him for anything. I played for the Seahawks, was an offensive lineman, was making good money, and I saw him helping out a lot of the family, and I'm like, that's nice. I don't know about helping. Like, he would go to dinner and he'd drop $1,000 on like 12 different people. I'm like, that's nice, but they didn't need it, and that money could have been invested. You could have done something more productive with it. So again, I think it comes down to, you have to make bad decision after bad decision after bad decision in order to burn through that money. But again, the key thing, in my opinion, is, okay, you're making $8 million a year. You use that as the foundation to buy the assets to set yourself up for life. So that is what needs to be talked about, which even when I was in college, we had some stuff where they talked about financial decision making, but people still have to choose to make the right decisions. And what Odell Beckham is talking about is people not making the right decisions. There's no way you make $8 million a year and end up broke by making right decisions. That doesn't happen, right? The way that happens is
you got to make a lot of bad decisions.
Yes. Yes. A lot of bad decisions. So I don't think he has a good excuse for saying that. Like, because later on, and I think he talks about, I got to buy my mom this, you got to buy this. No, you don't have to do that. You chose to do that, right? Because you think, even though your mom lives in a decent house, even if you get your mom a house, okay, don't go buy her a $3 million house. She doesn't need that, right? Like, be reasonable in the beginning until your assets can pay for it. This is my opinion.
Right. Did you take, for those that don't know, may know Jeffrey from Instagram, from TikTok, where he's very successful, and those that might not know, Jeffrey played wide receiver at Oklahoma. Did you take financial literacy courses? Did they require it? Did they mandate it when you were a D1 college football player? Did you choose it? Like, it seems like it should be a core competency class for at least football players and basketball players, because there is some. We still know the numbers, Jeffrey, on the guys that go on to be professionals. It's still low, even from the D1, even from the Power 4 D1 level. But it's still a smart thing that you should be taking financial literacy courses, in that world.
I don't remember exactly. I think because they would bring in, you'd have motivational speakers. So I think I do remember them bringing in one or two people talking about money and kind of how to budget and kind of how to do some things. I studied it more, obviously, because I was in finance, but I think there was a little bit of that, but I don't think there was enough, in my opinion. But yeah, it was there a little bit.
Yeah. I wonder if it hits home, too. You would think, honestly, you would think one guest speaker would hit home. But I wonder if it does.
I don't think it does.
Maybe you don't think it does. So let's just take a guy. It's not particular to him. It's just a name that's popping into my head. And it did work out for him, obviously. Baker. You played with Baker, right? Mm-hmm. So Baker's a bad example because you probably had an offensive lineman when you were there. I don't remember who it would be.
Creed Humphrey.
Creed Humphrey. Okay.
Yeah.
Creed's a bad example as well. Maybe Creed's a decent example. Starting center for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not Creed as an individual, but Creed as an example. Like, does that guy sit in class and go, man, I don't need to listen to all this. I'm going to be in the league for 10, 15 years making this much amount. I don't have to worry about it.
No, that wouldn't have been him.
I would sit there and I know not him as an individual, but do you think most guys, I'm trying to say at that level, like a guy who's good enough to get drafted in the top 4 rounds, a guy who has a reasonable expectation and he's not wrong that he'll be in the league for 3 to 4 years, but he's irrational perhaps in the fact that he thinks he could be there for 15 years or 10 years and that he's financially set for life. Like, there's that window. The guy that I think should really, really be concerned is the guy that is 2 contracts into the NFL, which we should say is a massive success. If you get a second contract in the NFL, you are a massive success. However, you're not set for life. So I would hope that guy is sitting there paying attention and not taking it for granted.
I know some people that would, I don't want to name them, I don't want to blast them like that, but I personally know guys that I'm like, yeah, you didn't pay attention. I don't give a shit about this. Even outside of finance, just a bunch of things, did not care. Right. And I'm like, if you did care, you would have been so much better in the league. You would have been, yes, they're out there to answer your question. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of college and Jeffrey's age, this is probably one of my favorite stories of the day because I do think it's closer to your age demographic. And the truth is, Jeffrey, like I see this with my sons. And it's one of those stories where you begin to experience it anecdotally, and then all of a sudden somebody writes about it and you realize it's macro, it's everywhere. And here's the headline. It's from The Atlantic. Accommodation nation. America's colleges have an extra time on tests problem. So the story is that quote-unquote disability diagnosis has absolutely exploded. Inflation in this. So what's happening, and I can speak to this, Jeffrey, at the high school level. So it's even happening in high school. And it's a lot of wealthy kids. You can go to the doctor, get a doctor's note, and say you have ADHD or any of these other sort of like loosely diagnosable problems. And then you can go to your school and say, I have this. And what you get is extra time on tests, a lot. And, if you're not in that, you've got to abide by these time tests. And if you are in that class, you get, I promise you, the kids not with the extra time look at the others and go, I wish I was over there. How do I get over there? I want more time to think about this. And the numbers at some of these Ivy League colleges, I can't remember which one. 2 days, you can tell me if you got it in front of you. Is it Stanford or is it Harvard? 40%. Harvard, 40%, Jeffrey. 40% have a quote unquote disability.
Of the students?
Yes.
Oh, no. No, yeah, I mean, that's the game in the system. I mean, here's, again, liberals, I say, I don't want to say suicidal empathy because I don't think that's the correct term, but too much empathy, I guess. Let's make everything feel okay. Let's make everything right. Let's do this. Let's do that. No, not everything is a mental illness. Oh, I don't feel good. Okay, you get it. No, there needs to be standards. If the standards aren't met, you don't qualify. That's not difficult to me. I don't know why so many people want to prioritize feelings over reality. Prioritizing feelings over reality doesn't end up benefiting society, in my opinion.
You know, and then there's, here's the cost to society. Okay, we're not sitting here saying that these disabilities aren't real. The problem is, if you got a bunch of people who are not real doing it, you hurt the people that are real with it. Okay, it's like the fraud scam in Minnesota with the Somalis, right?
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
If you got a bunch of fake autism claims, you're hurting the people with real autism by taking away their resources. If you've got a bunch of rich kids getting diagnosed as ADHD to get extra time, you've taken away, probably some admissions and opportunities for kids with real disabilities. And by the way, in this Atlantic report, that's what they said. A lot of those kids are being pushed to junior college, which that doesn't seem like a direct leap from Ivy League to junior college, but maybe it is. I don't know.
That'd be wild. I was about to say.
I'm trying to decide if that would shock me or if that's... I just feel like the admission standards for Ivy League have dropped so much. But the problem is other colleges have followed along with them on that. That it would be interesting. Like, my options are Grayson County Community College or Harvard. I don't know which one I get to go to.
That would be wild.
But you're taking away. But the point is, you're taking away from kids who have real ADHD.
Yeah, I mean, you are. And again, you could argue nepotism, but yeah, I mean, to me, again, I think this is a trend with Democrats in general. They want to be make everyone happy, so virtuous, so moral that they let guardrails down and they make themselves perfect targets for abuse. Kind of like what we saw in Minnesota, right? Like what we're seeing there. So like when you don't have a standard, when you whatever, and you just let everyone in, yeah, people are going to abuse the crap out of that. And that's what's probably happening.
And at some point, you're inviting it. At some point, you're complicit. Like, if you know you're creating a system like this, and then you don't pay attention to it when it's obvious that it's happening, what makes you different than the criminal?
Yeah, you got plausible deniability.
All right, Jeffery Mead, you can check him out at Instagram and TikTok. He's a very, very successful social and political commentator. I know he went to New York City just a few weeks ago, met with a lot of my bosses on set for several Fox shows, but we discovered him at Fox.
That is true. You did.
That is true? Good. All right. I like that. All right. Let's get you back down here to Dallas sometime soon. It's good to see you over the Zoom. Jeffery Mead.
All right. Good seeing you. Have a good one.
All right. Take care, man. All right. When we come back, really quickly, we said this yesterday. We said, how many teams can actually win the national championship? We debated the top 12 teams that should be in the playoffs, but I think we all agreed, even in an increased world of parity, not all 12 can win the national championship. How many really can, though? It's more than in the past. Next on Will Cain Country. Who can actually win the national championship? It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at the Will Cain Country YouTube channel, the Fox News Facebook page, the Will Cain Facebook page, Spotify, and on Apple. Let's bring in two-a-days, Dan and Tinfoil Pat. I'm just reading our mid-show text chain. Patrick, you're taking credit not just for Jeffery Mead, but you're suggesting we as well discovered Ruthless. Who else did we discover here at Will Cain Country?
Did we discover Fox in general?
We might have. Fox Podcasts in general.
Who can we take credit for?
Yeah, there's more. We can take credit for more. I'm a big discoverer. I'm like a media explorer.
Christopher Columbus?
That's what I consider myself.
Some might say.
I'm the Christopher Columbus of media. Thank you, Dan.
Got it.
I discovered Dan Orlovsky.
Wade Stotts.
I don't think we discovered Wade Stotts.
You discovered Dan Orlovsky. Fascinating.
Oh, I definitely discovered Dan Orlovsky. He would never admit it, but I did.
You should have left him outside that end zone in Detroit.
Were you the one that told him to break down game tape on Twitter for all those years?
No. No, that was his.
Oh.
Can't take that away from him. Now he's all big time. I don't even know if he would respond. I'm gonna text him right now. I'm gonna say, I discovered you, right?
You're like, hey, this is Christopher Columbus, aka Will Cain. I discovered you.
Let me just text him. I discovered you, right?
I bet he would respond very quickly to that. A resounding no.
I think he will too. He will say no, but he'll be lying because he won't want to give me that
ask
credit.
the ESPN higher ups if you discovered him.
Okay, I just texted him. Here, I'm gonna text an ESPN exec real quick who's no longer with them.
Norby?
But I'm gonna ask him too. No, not Norby. I'm gonna ask this guy. This guy would know. He made talent decisions. All right, I've got both of those out. We're gonna find out. Did I discover Orlovsky? I discovered media. Some people say.
Yeah.
I don't say it, but a lot of people are saying it. That
Some people
I
are
discovered
saying.
media. During the course of the show, Patrick has apparently discovered a topic that requires us to stop down, hit the breaking news alert, and change the show. That was the text that Dan and I got during the Jeffery Mead interview. I know. Here, let's read it, Dan. Let's see if the audience can hear the sense of urgency.
I was so pumped. I'm like, this is going to be
text.
great for us.
I have a great story to add to the end. FYI. Separate text. The FYI
I thought it
was
was
a
breaking
follow-up.
news.
And, I did too. So, what is this breaking news, Tinfoil Pat?
So there is a study that women's farts smell worse than men's farts.
You
So
texted
men
us in the
fart-
middle of the show for that?
Yeah, for the end of the show. It's not a lead, but men fart more. Women's farts smell worse. So it's just science.
This is hard-hitting stuff for the Will Cain country.
And women need to
I'm not
really
afraid.
own those farts because otherwise they might get Alzheimer's disease.
The dog did it anyways, so it doesn't matter.
Whoa, that seems like the breaking news. What do you mean, own it? What does
Something
that,
like that.
mean? You get Alzheimer's disease if you don't claim it? What do you mean, own it? Are you saying don't hold it in or you'll get
Don't hold it
Alzheimer's?
in.
Or are you saying
Exactly.
you better speak up? And wait, that's two different things. Don't hold
Let
it
her-
in or don't
let her
deny
rip.
it.
Let her rip.
Smelt it, you dealt it.
I don't. So the Alzheimer's, that seems like the big breaking news part, and I'm feeling real shaky on the facts that you've just shared on that. But that's the breaking news part. If you deny your farts, you will get Alzheimer's. That seems to me something that might
Clip
lead
it.
Jesse Waters prime
Make it
time.
real.
Now, but for the rest of the story, I find it funny. It's amusing. I'm not afraid of the topic. But I think the best part is that you thought this was so important that you needed us to know during the middle of the show that you have a topic that we have to talk about. And it is about
It's pretty evergreen,
men's
too.
farts versus women's farts.
We can do it any day.
Well, I mean, this is Thursday though, so I mean, we're not going to do it tomorrow. We're
Why
going to save
not?
it for
We can do
next
a
week.
sports show.
We're going to forget. I don't know.
It's a sports topic.
And
maybe.
then also, I don't know when you read the text. Sometimes you don't read the text, so I'm trying to get it in so I can get it in at the end of the show.
I love the way your mind works sometimes. It's fascinating.
All right. I have
it's a weird
I have
place
a
to be.
response from Dan Orlovsky.
Okay.
Patrick's discovering fart stories. I discover talent in media. I got a text from Dan Orlovsky. He said Peter Schrager was first.
Wow.
And then I responded, nah.
Schrags.
It could be true. It's possible. It's
Good Morning
possible he
Football?
was on NFL Network. Yeah, it's possible he was on that first.
We say Kay
before
Adams did too.
ESPN. That's your girl.
Yeah, my pal.
They just loved his NFL career so much. They're like, this guy definitely knows how to break down film.
I'm not going to talk about him stepping out of the end zone. I will not do that.
Oh, I'll do it.
Dan is really good at what he does. You don't
He's
have
so
to
good.
continue to besmirch him with his lowest moment in
I
life,
know.
Patrick. It's really, it really does reveal more about you than it does Dan. That
Oh, yeah,
is-
Schadenfreude.
That is
I
his
love it.
lowest moment in his career, and he's really good at what he does.
Other people have
Everybody
done it
gets
since,
mad at him
too.
and says, a lot of guys in Dallas really don't like Dan because he says something ridiculous about the Cowboys. He's wrong a lot. I mean, have I ever won a sports debate more than Carson Wentz versus Dak Prescott? I mean, it was me against the world. Just for the record, that was me against the world.
When was that?
The entire world said, well, I don't know. I can't remember what years it was. But what was it? 18, 19?
17?
No, it was 18, 19.
You were
in
diehard
that
Dak.
range. And the entire world said Carson Wentz was better than Dak. And I said, no, he's not. He's not better than Dak. Dak is better than Carson Wentz. And that was an ongoing debate. And I was a man on an island. And I have won that going away. That was, if that were a stock, I'm a billionaire and they're broke. And just add it to the list. Add it to the list, man. Luka Doncic. I mean, I discover talent in the athletic arena as well. That's what's really clear.
You should be a scout.
Well, this also just came up like in the last day or so. Like, what the hell happened to Carson Wentz? Because he was really, really good. I don't know if you would have, like, that season, I don't know if you would have won that debate. But, like, over time, like, he just dropped off a cliff. What the hell?
He really did.
He really did. He really did. It would be interesting to figure out why. Yeah, was it psychological? Is it you know, I don't know. You have to consider everything. Work ethic. It's funny, here in a couple of weeks on Will Kane Country, we're going to have a sit-down interview with Roger Clemens, and I was thinking about a few other people that I'd like to have sit-down interviews with this morning, and I would love to get Vince Young. And I started thinking about Vince, and, like, I think my first question to Vince would be 4th and 7. I believe it was like 10 seconds left on the clock. National championship game, Texas versus USC. How did you feel? What did you think breaking the huddle? That's what I would like to know. Because as a sports fan, I have only ever, let's go around the horn real quick on this. The most confident, you know how being a sports fan and watching sports is an emotional roller coaster, and you are often infused with insecurity. Are we going to get it? I'm scared. This is fun. All of that. There are 2 moments in my life where I did not have insecurity. I had supreme confidence, and it's a weird feeling to have. And that was in the 1990s with the Dallas Cowboys, but it was an ever-present sense of confidence. It was always there. It was like 3rd and 10. I knew that Troy Aikman was going to throw a slant to Michael Irvin, and they were going to convert. It was confidence that was validated and consistent. And you walked into every game just like with a sense of confidence. Vince Young was the only other time I had that kind of confidence where it's like, Vince has got us. Vince will do it. 4th and 7, Vince will do it. And I want to know how he felt. But I was thinking about this, and I wanted to go on to think about what then happened in the NFL. Like, why did it not work out for you in the NFL? And the answers are a multitude, right? It could be work ethic. It could be a lot of people have reported on it. But I want to hear it from him, what he thinks. And I would love to hear that same thing from Carson Wentz to bring this home. Like, what, in your diagnosis, what went wrong from the high you were on with the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't think Cam
was MVP.
You can't have that conversation with. Yeah, you can't have that conversation with Cam because the rebuttal is, what are you talking about? I went to the Super Bowl and I was MVP.
True.
Carson can't say the same thing, right? It's unfulfilled, potential unfulfilled moment. And I would love to hear from the principal player their estimation as to why. Okay, 2 days. You have it from yesterday. I hope I don't know if you can still have it. You can bring it up again, but bring up, if you would, the 12-team field right now for the playoffs before the conference championship games, which will still shake itself out as Texas Tech has to play BYU, Alabama plays Georgia, Indiana plays Ohio State. Both Indiana and Ohio State will remain in the playoff field. Alabama will most likely stay in the playoff field even if they lose to Georgia. Presumption is BYU will drop out if they lose to Texas Tech. But the point is, we have a pretty good sense of what the playoff field will look like. There could be 1 or 2 teams in or out. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, it's up on your screen. If you are listening to us on Spotify, Apple, or radio, I'll just give you the top 13, 14 right now because that's the teams in the debate. Number 1, Ohio State. 2, Indiana. 3, Georgia. 4, Texas Tech. 5, Oregon. 6, Ole Miss. 7, Texas A&M. 8, Oklahoma. 9, Alabama. And 10, Notre Dame. Then you have 11 BYU, 12 Miami, 13 Texas, 14 Vanderbilt. Really, the cutoff is 12 Miami. Good sense that Miami could still get in depending on what happens with BYU and the ACC championship game as well, which could be a huge problem if Duke ends up winning the ACC. Now, the point is, we have a pretty decent field to pick from. And yesterday I said, Dan contended there's more parity in college football than ever, so it matters more than in the past who gets into the playoff. Agreed. Patrick is filled with angst and anger and grumpiness and doesn't like the 12 versus 13 debate, wouldn't like 16 versus 17 debate, will never be happy, so it doesn't really matter. But I did find that pretty interesting. In a world of increased parity, I am even willing to admit Texas, the first team theoretically out, probably isn't going to win the national championship. So the price of them being out isn't ultimately all that high. How many teams can became the question. So let's go through this together, the three of us, and we'll start from the top. Now, I'm fully aware that Tinfoil Pat will probably say no starting at number 2. And weirdly, he may say yes at number 8, 9, or 10. But we'll just have to all deal with that together. Okay, welcome to our world. So, Dan, put it back up. Let's go through this really quickly. Who can win the national championship? The three of us will vote. Ready? Number 1, Ohio State.
Yes.
Yes. Number 2, Indiana.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Their quarterback is.
I'm going to say yes.
They've been playing
with Curt Cignetti and a good enough quarterback like this, I think they can win. It would only, depending on where they fall here, what's it end up being? 3 to 4 games. I'm going to go yes on Indiana. Number 3, Georgia.
Yes.
Yes.
Will's going to say no. I thought you were going to say
Number 4, Texas Tech.
no.
No.
Yes. I think Texas Tech can.
Bias.
Defense is really good. Why would I be biased towards Texas Tech?
Texas.
Isn't your wife from
defense
Texas
is
Tech?
really good. She's from Lubbock. That
Yeah.
doesn't make me a Tech fan.
Lubbock bias.
I do have a little bit of soft spot in my heart for Texas Tech,
I
but
know
I
you
actually
did.
think they have
See?
the ingredients. Yeah, I do.
The problem is they.
By the way,
like,
I have a brother that's a Tech fan. I have a brother-in-law that's a Tech fan, and nothing makes me hate Texas Tech more than them. Like, if they would just be quiet, I would actually quietly root for Texas Tech to some degree. But they have you think Texas A&M has little brother syndrome? They have redheaded cousin syndrome.
I like Mahomes there.
Oh yeah, did we invite him to the family reunion? Oh shoot, did somebody text him real quick and tell him we're all getting together? That's the Texas Tech
That's
guy.
so mean.
And it's like, oh, I like him, but I forgot to invite him, guy. And it's like, if he would just stop being such a prick about everything, then you would like him. But
Do we have to
he's
invite you?
got the redheaded cousin syndrome. But I'm a yes on Texas Tech.
Okay.
Number 5, Oregon.
yes.
Yes.
I'm closer on this one. Everybody loves Dante Moore. Have you noticed that he's like a top 5 mock draft quarterback right now? I'm not sure I'm totally sold. I'll say yes, though, in this world
I
of
don't trust
parity,
any
they could go on
Oregon
this run.
quarterbacks after Mariota.
I think that's fair, honestly. I
just
kind of do. After
It's their
Mariota,
system.
go back to Joey Harrington.
Yeah, true.
All frail, small bone structure.
That's true. I
So,
mean,
by
they're
the way-
basically running backs.
Yeah.
Basically, we've had Texas Tech was only 1 out of 3. Starting at number 2, we had some disagreement, but there's been at least all 5 of these teams have gotten at least a vote from the 3 of us. Let's keep going until we get 3 no's, okay? Ole Miss,
I'm going no with that.
I'm a
lane.
no.
That's a no. I want it to be a yes, but I don't think so.
I think it's tough losing your coach like that right there. So there we go. There's 3 no's. And by the way, we might be there now. Texas A&M. I'm going to go no.
No.
Yes.
Really?
You think
They
so?
have they
Really?
have the 4th highest blue chip ratio among all the teams this season.
Okay,
I mean, like
nerd.
that's one of the biggest outliers. So yeah, I mean,
Dude, they
that's-
got dominated by Texas in the
They
second
did.
half.
Yeah.
Dominated. In
That's
the second
why I'm
half.
saying no.
Did games happen, matchups happen? Like, it doesn't mean that they're out of it. I mean, they could go on a run and win 3 games. I mean, that's a possibility. They have the
to
talent
win the
to do
championship.
it, and the coach
right.
and a good coach.
All right. Oklahoma. No.
Yes.
Yes?
Do you watch college?
Really?
They have a set. Look, I'm telling you, if you have the talent, you have the potential to do it. I mean, like if you're above 70,
Patrick.
huh?
Could all 25 win, Patrick?
No, we're getting to the end.
Okay.
He said no to Indiana, and he said no to Texas Tech. No, man, I don't know if you've watched Oklahoma. Their quarterback is simultaneously a solution and a problem. Like, he can be really good.
Such a great.
And he can be, yeah, like, I mean, he can win them a game. But in the course of it'll be 4 games for Oklahoma, he will lose them a game. There's no doubt. He'll throw 3 picks in a game. He'll force the ball where it shouldn't go. He's too aggressive. I can't see him being the smart quarterback 4 games in a row needed to win when the games are tight. So that's why I'm out on. And nothing against John Material. That's just the way he's played this year. I think I'm analytically right on that.
It's all fluky, man. I mean,
Alabama.
Like, did we think that Joe Flacco was going to win a Super Bowl? I don't know.
But that's a different kind of quarterback. That was a smart conservative quarterback. This is the problem here. Is it's the opposite. Alabama. I'm a no.
Yes.
Yes. They have the
Really?
definitely.
I think they could pull it off.
They got the wake up call and they came back.
And then,
you know, yeah.
All right, come on. This has got to be 3 now.
Yes.
Notre Dame.
Yes.
Really, Patrick?
Healthy Jeremiah Love. CJ Carr ain't really it.
So we're 10 deep. And the only unanimous no's we've got is Ole Miss right now. The only unanimous no is Ole Miss. So you guys, between the 3 of us, at least one of us thinks 9 teams. I checked out. I don't know if you noticed, but I've been no's for a while now.
You have.
My number's about 5. 5 teams can win. I'm a no on Notre Dame. I'm a no on Miami. So obviously I'm a no on BYU. I'm a no on those teams. I'm a no on A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, Notre Dame, Ole Miss. I'm at 5. I gave it to Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, and Oregon. That's my pool who could actually win the national championship. Yeah, I think it is chalk. Yeah,
I'm gonna
those
chalk
5
you
are
right
the 5
now.
best teams in the country.
If Texas gets in, which I don't think they should, I also think that they could potentially win it. They have the talent to do it.
If that's true, it's absolute insanity to keep them out. If what you said is true, they have to be in the playoff.
They should have been in the playoff because, like, we don't just go by blue chip ratio. I'm saying, like, I'm guessing, I'm predicting, you know, the potential outcome based off of that. But it doesn't mean that they deserve to be in it.
But the argument is deserve carries a lot of weight. That's where we're gonna fall into the debate we've had the last 2 days.
Right.
I
Which
believe
is pointless.
that there is increased parity. I think 5 actually, and by the way, I think 6 through 10 could beat 1 through 5. I think 6 through 10 could beat 1 through 5 on any given game. But I'm talking about who can win 3 to 4 games in a row, right?
Seems like Georgia,
and
Ohio
I don't
State.
think 6 through 10. Yeah, but in the past it was 2 or 3. Now I do believe it's 4 or 5.
I think it'll be
that could win it. But there could be upsets. There may be bigger upsets. That won't disprove my argument. All I'm telling you is your national champion won't come in at any of those teams below number 5 right now.
I think Indiana might get, their Cinderella might get a little midnight at some point.
I don't know what reason to believe that other than their brand.
Yeah.
Other than their brand and maybe Patrick's exalted blue chip rating.
Hey, real quick, from the comments section, our esteemed Wade Stotts has said that his kids call this show Helmet Guy.
Helmet Guy.
So
you watching Helmet Guy?
For next year's rebrand, since we rebrand every year or so, Helmet Guy. That's the show.
It's Will's alter ego.
Helmet Guy. Yeah. I don't know if I like that, Wade. I'll have to think about that. That's going to bang around in the head a little bit. Get to know my name, Stotts. I'm talking to the kids, to the family. Get to know my name, Stotts. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We hope to join us again tomorrow for Cain on Sports. You can find us always at Spotify or Apple, and we will see you again next time.